What if I told you that the very methods your grandmother was practicing in her kitchen back in 1963 were so remarkably effective that major corporations and certain health authorities literally attempted to suppress them? This was not because those techniques were hazardous, but rather because they functioned too efficiently. Welcome back. Today we are counting down 25 of Grandma's most forbidden white vinegar hacks from the 1960s that contemporary scientists are now identifying as genuinely brilliant. These methods were once dismissed, ridiculed, banned from magazine columns, and purged from household guides. Now, decades later, researchers are quietly conceding that Grandma was right all along. We are going all the way from number 25 down to the most astonishing one at number 1. Stay with us, because the further down this list we progress, the more unbelievable these revelations become. Trust me, number 2 alone is worth watching the entire video. Before we dive in, there is something vital to understand. Back in the early 1960s, household product companies were experiencing a massive boom. Brands like Tide, Clorox, and Windex were becoming household names. Advertisers were spending enormous amounts of money to push synthetic chemical cleaners into American homes. Any home remedy that worked just as well as, or better than these commercial products, represented a direct financial threat. Consequently, women's magazines sponsored by these very corporations quietly stopped publishing vinegar-based tips. Home economics teachers in schools were actively discouraged from recommending them. What was once passed down freely from mother to daughter became something you whispered about rather than shouted. But Grandma kept doing it anyway. And now science is finally catching up. Let us count them down. 1. Using white vinegar as a natural fabric softener replacement. Grandma added half a cup of white vinegar directly into the rinse cycle of her washing machine. She swore that clothes emerged softer, brighter, and with absolutely no static cling. In the 1960s, the fabric softener industry was just taking off, with Downy being launched in 1960. Recommending that people skip it entirely was considered almost anti-American consumerism. Home economics teachers were quietly told not to promote vinegar alternatives in classrooms anymore. The science here is elegant. Soap and detergent leave an alkaline residue on fabric fibers after washing. White vinegar, being acidic, neutralizes that residue completely, which is what makes fibers feel stiff. Removing it makes fabric feel naturally softer without any synthetic coating. 2. Rinsing hair with diluted white vinegar after shampooing. In the 1960s, beauty culture was dominated by brands like Breck, and the salon industry actively pushed back against home remedies, calling vinegar rinses damaging and unscientific. Women who did it were told that they were stripping their hair. Grandma mixed 1 tablespoon of white vinegar into a cup of cool water and poured it over her hair as a final rinse after shampooing, then let it air dry without rinsing it out. Modern trichologists now explain that commercial shampoos leave an alkaline residue on the hair shaft, and the mild acidity of diluted white vinegar restores the natural pH of the scalp and smooths the cuticle layer, which is exactly what creates that soft, shiny result Grandma was always getting. 3. Spraying white vinegar directly onto bread dough before baking. Bakers in the 1960s would have been horrified. The conventional wisdom was that vinegar would kill the yeast and ruin the entire loaf. Grandma lightly misted the top of her risen dough with undiluted white vinegar using a small spray bottle just before sliding it into the oven. The result was a slightly crispier, more golden crust. Food scientists now confirm that the acetic acid creates a mild Maillard reaction enhancement on the surface proteins of the dough and also helps set the crust structure early in the baking process, preventing the top from splitting unevenly. 4. Soaking wooden cutting boards in a white vinegar solution overnight. In the 1960s, health inspectors and home economics teachers told households to use bleach, specifically Clorox, to sanitize cutting boards. Using vinegar was considered inadequate and potentially dangerous because it was not seen as a real disinfectant. Grandma filled the kitchen sink with undiluted white vinegar and laid her wooden cutting board flat in it, soaking it for at least 8 hours before rinsing and air drying. Modern microbiology research from the University of California, Davis, found that white vinegar significantly reduces E. coli and salmonella on wood surfaces. And unlike chlorine bleach, It does not degrade the wood fibers over repeated use, meaning the board actually stays safer longer. 5. Cleaning the inside of your coffee percolator with white vinegar. Back in the 1960s, housewives were using appliances like the Sunbeam Coffee Master or the Proctor Silex percolator every single morning. And the manufacturers actually warned against using anything other than mild dish soap inside the unit. Using vinegar was considered potentially damaging to the metal components. Grandma ignored that completely. She filled the reservoir with equal parts white vinegar and water, ran a full brew cycle, then ran 2 more cycles with plain water to rinse. Today, appliance experts confirm that the acetic acid in white vinegar dissolves calcium and mineral deposits far better than commercial descaling products, and it does not leave behind harmful chemical residues. The machine actually lasts longer when cleaned this way. 6. Wiping the inside of the refrigerator with undiluted white vinegar. In the 1960s, appliance companies and health departments often recommended baking soda and soapy water for refrigerator cleaning. Grandma instead wiped every shelf, drawer, and gasket with a cloth soaked in white vinegar, then let the fridge air out before restocking. Research shows vinegar has antifungal and antibacterial properties that help kill mold spores and reduce odor-causing bacteria inside refrigerators. 7. Adding white vinegar to the water when poaching eggs. French culinary tradition was extremely dominant in the 1960s through television personalities and cooking schools. And while adding a splash of vinegar to poaching water was known in professional kitchens, home cooks were told by magazines like Better Homes and Gardens to avoid it because it would make the eggs taste sour. Grandma added 1 teaspoon of white vinegar per quart of water in her saucepan before sliding in the cracked eggs. The science here is elegant. The acetic acid causes the egg white proteins to denature and coagulate faster, which means the whites wrap tightly around the yolk instead of spreading into those wispy, ragged threads. Perfect poached eggs every single time. 8. Treating sunburn by patting white vinegar onto the skin with a cotton cloth. In the 1960s, products like solar cane spray were heavily promoted, and acidic home remedies for sunburn were often discouraged. Grandma soaked a clean washcloth in cool white vinegar and placed it gently on a sunburned skin for about 15 minutes. Research suggests vinegar can help restore the skin's natural acid mantle and reduce surface inflammation. The cool compress also helps calm the burning sensation. 9. Cleaning eyeglasses with a diluted white vinegar solution. Opticians in the 1960s who were selling proprietary lens cleaners warned that any home solution, including vinegar, would scratch lenses and dissolve the frames. Grandma mixed 1 part white vinegar with 3 parts distilled water in a small bottle, applied a few drops to each lens, and polished with a clean cotton cloth. Today, optometrists confirm this works beautifully for glass lenses and most standard plastic frames. The acetic acid cuts through the oils from skin and cosmetics that commercial cleaners often just smear around. 10. Killing weeds in the driveway cracks using undiluted white vinegar. In the 1960s, chemical companies promoted herbicides like 2-Comin-4-D, and homeowners were told vinegar would not control weeds. Grandma poured undiluted white vinegar into driveway cracks on sunny days, targeting the base of each weed. Research shows vinegar at typical 5% acidity can damage plant cell membranes and kill many small broadleaf weeds, especially when applied on hot, dry days. 11. Soaking dentures in white vinegar in water overnight. Dentists in the 1960s exclusively recommended proprietary effervescent tablets like Polident or Sterident for denture cleaning and warned that vinegar would corrode the acrylic and cause discoloration. Grandma placed her full upper and lower denture plates in a glass filled with equal parts white vinegar and water every single night. Dental researchers now confirm that this solution dissolves calcium deposits and the tartar that builds up at the pink gum line of acrylic dentures without scratching the surface. The antimicrobial action kills Candida, the fungal organism responsible for denture stomatitis. It is gentler and more thorough than most commercial tablets. 12. Unclogging a slow drain using white vinegar and baking soda. Plumbers in the 1960s who were called to unclog drains would push products like Drano, which used sodium hydroxide, and they specifically told homeowners that home remedies were a complete waste of time and could delay necessary professional work. Grandma poured half a cup of baking soda down the slow drain first, immediately followed by 1 full cup of white vinegar, then covered the drain with a cloth for 10 minutes before flushing with boiling water. The physical eruption forces debris loose from pipe walls, and the subsequent reaction creates a mildly alkaline cleaning solution that cuts through grease and organic matter without corroding the pipes the way lye-based commercial drain openers can. 13. Removing rust from old tools by soaking them in white vinegar. In the 1960s, hardware stores promoted rust removers like Rust-Oleum and Naval Jelly, dismissing vinegar as ineffective. Grandma submerged rusty tools in undiluted white vinegar for 12 to 24 hours, then scrubbed them clean. The acetic acid reacts with iron oxide, converting rust into soluble compounds that rinse away. It works more slowly than commercial removers, but helps preserve the underlying metal. 14. Spraying white vinegar on windows instead of using commercial glass cleaners. Windex launched in 1936 but dominated the 1960s household cleaning market completely, and cleaning product companies ran active campaigns suggesting that household alternatives left streaks and harbored germs. Grandma filled a repurposed spray bottle with equal parts white vinegar and water and cleaned every window in the house. The acetic acid dissolves the surfactant residue that commercial ammonia-based cleaners leave behind, which is actually the primary cause of streaking. Real clean glass repels water, and vinegar-cleaned windows do exactly that. 15. Preserving cut flowers longer by adding white vinegar to the vase water. Florists in the 1960s sold proprietary flower food packets and warned that any acid would accelerate wilting. Grandma added 2 tablespoons of white vinegar and 1 teaspoon of regular table sugar to the water in every flower vase. Botanists now explain that the mild acidity inhibits bacterial growth in the water, which is the primary mechanism behind stem blockage and wilting. The sugar provides glucose for cellular respiration in the cut stems. This combination genuinely extends the life of cut flowers by 4 to 7 additional days. 16. Soaking your feet in warm white vinegar water to treat toenail fungus and cracked heels. This was not just dismissed in the 1960s, it was actively forbidden by podiatrists who said it was medically irresponsible and potentially dangerous for people with diabetes or circulation issues. Grandma prepared a basin using her white enamel foot tub, filling it with 2 quarts of comfortably warm water and 1 cup of white vinegar, and soaked both feet for 30 minutes 3 times per week. She followed up by patting dry thoroughly and applying petroleum jelly like Vaseline to the cracked heel areas. Modern podiatric research confirms that the acetic acid creates an environment that actively inhibits the growth of dermatophyte fungi, responsible for toenail fungus in athlete's foot, while the prolonged soak softens the hyperkeratotic skin of cracked heels sufficiently for natural exfoliation. Doctors now recommend exactly this protocol. 17. Using white vinegar to stop hiccups. In the 1960s, doctors recommended breathing into paper bags or swallowing spoonfuls of sugar, and the idea of drinking vinegar was considered potentially harmful to the esophagus. Grandma drank 1 full teaspoon of white vinegar straight, slowly. Neurological research now suggests that the sharp acidity stimulates the vagus nerve directly through the pharyngeal receptors, which overrides the repetitive phrenic nerve spasm causing hiccups in the first place. It works in the same physiological pathway that sugar and shock remedies attempt to activate, but with far more direct neurological precision. 18. Cleaning the toilet tank interior with white vinegar. Plumbers and hardware stores pushed products like SaniFlush in the 1960s, and placing anything homemade in the toilet tank was warned against because it could theoretically damage the rubber flapper and ball cock. Grandma poured 2 full cups of undiluted white vinegar into the toilet tank and let it sit overnight without flushing. The acidic acid dissolves the calcium and rust staining that builds up on the interior porcelain and around the rubber valve components without degrading the rubber the way chlorine-based products do over time. Plumbing engineers now confirm that vinegar actually extends the life of rubber toilet components significantly. 19. Vinegar compresses to bring down a fever. When a child in Grandma's house had a high fever, she did not panic and she did not reach immediately for aspirin. She soaked a cloth in a mixture of cool water and white vinegar and placed it on the forehead, the back of the neck, and the inner wrists. She refreshed those compresses regularly and kept the child calm and resting. In the 1960s, this practice was being replaced by children's aspirin, marketed aggressively to parents as the modern and responsible choice. The compress worked through gentle evaporative cooling, helping regulate body temperature gradually. Vinegar evaporates slightly faster than water, increasing the cooling effect. Modern research on traditional fever care recognizes that controlled surface cooling can support the body's natural temperature regulation. 20. Treating ear infections with diluted white vinegar eardrops. In the 1960s, this was considered outright dangerous and medically irresponsible. Doctors wrote it off as quackery and prescribed antibiotic eardrops, like cortisporin, exclusively. Grandma mixed 1 part white vinegar with 1 part rubbing alcohol and used a small medicine dropper to place 3 drops into the affected ear, tilting the head and holding for 60 seconds. Otolaryngologists now publish clinical guidelines recommending exactly this mixture as a first-line treatment for outer ear infections, also called swimmer's ear, because the acidity kills the bacteria and the alcohol dries the moisture that created the infection environment. It is now medically endorsed. 21. Removing warts by applying white vinegar on a cotton pad secured with a bandage. The 1960s dermatology establishment pushed liquid nitrogen treatments in clinical settings and considered home treatments not just ineffective, but irresponsible. Grandma soaked a small piece of cotton ball in white vinegar, placed it directly on the wart surface, and secured it with a strip of adhesive tape, replacing it every 12 hours for 2 to 3 weeks. Clinical dermatology research confirms that sustained topical application of acetic acid triggers an immune response in the localized skin tissue and steadily breaks down the HPV-infected cells. It is slower than clinical freezing but achieves equivalent clearance rates. 22. Adding white vinegar to bath water to treat vaginal yeast infections. In the 1960s, this was the most forbidden item on the list for women. Gynecologists absolutely prohibited any home treatment, and frankly, any discussion of this topic was socially taboo. Grandma added 2 cups of white vinegar to a full bathtub of warm water and soaked for 20 minutes. Modern gynecological research confirms that diluted acetic acid restores the natural vaginal pH, which is naturally acidic between 3.5 and 4.5, inhibiting Candida albicans overgrowth. While internal vinegar douching remains medically discouraged, external bath soaks are now recommended by many physicians as a safe, evidence-based, complementary measure. 23. Cleaning and disinfecting wounds with diluted white vinegar. In the 1960s, iodine solutions like betadine and hydrogen peroxide were the medical standards, and any suggestion of using vinegar on open wounds was called primitive and potentially infectious. Grandma diluted white vinegar at roughly a 1:10 ratio with boiled, cooled water and used it to clean minor cuts and scrapes before bandaging. Wound care journals now publish extensive research confirming that diluted acetic acid is effective against Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Staphylococcus aureus, and MRSA, the exact bacteria responsible for wound infections. Some modern wound care protocols in clinical settings use buffered acetic acid solutions specifically because they promote healing without damaging new tissue the way hydrogen peroxide does. 24. Using white vinegar as a natural deodorant applied directly to the underarms. In the 1960s, this was socially humiliating to even suggest. Brands like Ban Roll-On and Secret Deodorant were synonymous with respectability, and suggesting vinegar as a substitute would have been genuinely shocking. Grandma patted a small amount of white vinegar under each arm using a cotton pad, let it dry completely for about 90 seconds, and then dressed normally. No vinegar smell transferred to her clothing. Microbiologists now explain that underarm odor is caused entirely by bacterial activity, not by sweat itself. White vinegar alters the skin's pH to an environment where the primary odor-producing bacteria cannot survive. Several dermatologists now actively recommend this for patients with sensitive skin who react badly to commercial deodorant aluminum compounds. 25. The grandmother's remedy that was literally laughed out of doctors' offices in the 1960s, drinking a daily tonic of 1 tablespoon of white vinegar, diluted in 8 ounces of water every morning on an empty stomach. Physicians in the 1960s told their patients this was an old wives' tale at best and potentially damaging to the esophageal lining and tooth enamel at worst. It was dismissed in medical journals and mocked in magazines. Grandma did it every single morning without fail for decades. And the research vindication has been extraordinary. Published clinical studies now confirm that daily consumption of diluted acetic acid reduces fasting blood glucose levels in people with insulin resistance, lowers postprandial blood sugar spikes after meals, improves gut microbiome diversity by supporting beneficial bacteria, reduces LDL cholesterol in sustained trials, and demonstrates measurable antimicrobial effects on H. pylori, the bacterium linked to stomach ulcers. The key is that Grandma always diluted it properly. Never drink it straight because concentrated acetic acid does damage tooth enamel. 1 tablespoon in a full glass of water, taken through a straw if possible, to protect the teeth. That was her method. That was the right method. And 60 years later, the science finally caught up to a woman who never needed a laboratory to tell her what worked. She already knew. If you found value in even one of these hacks, pass this along to someone who needs to hear it. And before you go, drop a comment and tell me which one surprised you the most. I read every single one. If these stories of forgotten wisdom have changed the way you look at the simple items in your pantry, please subscribe and like the channel. We are dedicated to unearthing the history and truths that they tried to bury. Let's cultivate a better future together. Our next historical treasure will be revealed very soon.